It was good to see. I think it speaks volumes for the steps we're taking as a program, and I can't tell you how proud I am of them for going in, taking care of business, and really afterwards, their excitement was awesome. I think, our fans, I can't tell you, all the students and all the people, that were there wearing the green and gold of Colorado State, just kind of feel the joy in their hearts moving forward, and that's something that is special, because I think all of us have to know that, we're in this for not only, this football team, but a whole community, a university, and a nation of Ram fans. So that's pretty comforting. So, but, moving forward as we talk on, is it on? As we, way to go. I had a train of thought there. but as we move forward, from an injury standpoint, obviously the loss of Sambo is big. Here's a senior leader that'll be out a couple weeks with that knee thing, and then but as we thought, it checked out. He'll be back. It won't be this week. Max Morgan did a thumb break or something like that, basically, so he'll be in a soft cast when you're looking there, but he'll play this week. And the only other one would be Kevin Davis, fought through kind of a shoulder deal. We don't know exactly what it is. Dr. Gray will get a good peek on it tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, as far as we go that way. He'll go through practice today, but what exactly it is, I can't tell you other than it's a shoulder. Okay, so those are the three things. Schlager will still be out, but he's progressing a lot faster than we thought. He won't be ready for this game. And guys, that's really it. So Tyree played, I thought, well in the game. He had a little knee thing going into it, and so I thought we came out pretty good out of the game, and especially the physical nature in which we played. I was pretty happy about that.
Are you hopeful Ty will be Boston College, say not for UCD?
Well, it's obviously in that case, it's we're going to do what's best for him. Usually on those things are about a 2-week deal. Everybody's different, as they heal, but having that bye week, I think, in there adds another week that would give him a good week of practice, and then a good week of game prep week to see if he'd be ready. So I'd say that's probably what we'd be shooting for, but I know this, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't earlier, just because he wants to play and be part of this plan and be part of this family as we move forward. So
the eye test was that Nick Gallagher came in and played well. Was that confirmed when you saw the film?
Yeah.
And the offensive line is improved.
I just those guys, they didn't flinch. And that's something that we kind of talked about. You guys remember, like in high school, when that carload of people had come to the party and they were the ones out doing all the talking. And then there was this other carload that would come and then just clean up everybody's clock, right? And didn't say a word. They're the ones you worry about, right? And I really felt that our offensive line just came in and just played the game the way it should be played. And as the game wore on, I think that they developed more confidence and played a little better. And obviously with Nick. As always, when you look at it, there's a play here and there that you'd kind of say, might have missed an assignment or a communication or whatever. But, that being said, he's a guy that's been playing guard and tackle for us all camp, and I thought really did a heck of a job under the circumstances.
Where did they actually grade out at? Did they grade out pretty high?
Yeah, they did. They graded out high, and guys, they were our players of the week, as a team, our offensive players of the week were that offensive line, and there's no doubt about it. You know, defensively, KPL was our defensive player of the week, and well deserved. And Kyle Robinson, you know, his first action was our special teams player of the week, and he really showed up his speed, you know, with his size on all the different units. So, you know, those were, you know, our players of the week.
Jim, is this a certain amount of validation almost in the things you've been trying to teach? I know it's only one game, but you come into a game with an unproven offensive line, lose your best guy, your offensive line dominates play. You come into the game with a bunch of untested running backs, everybody's kind of wondering if they go out and just play really well. This is what you've been talking about, pass the torch on to the next guy and it's your turn. Do you sense there was a little bit of validation of that in this game and what you guys showed?
Yeah, I think, and that's, you know, probably a pretty good word for it. And yet, you know, there was no sense of other than, you know, that's what we expected. You know what I'm getting at? I mean, so.
You did, but
No, they
I guess
did.
A lot
I
of
mean.
people out there around town and in the stands probably did.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Just keep doubting us. But at the same time, it's within our family, our organization. You know, those are the things that we do every single day. And, you know, I think our guys went out there and played kind of the way we expected, except for the first part of the game. So that's something we need to shore up.
By not getting excited, by not being giddy, are you trying to establish and set that standard?
Yeah, and it's really a mindset. It's something we work on round the clock in our mental conditioning program as to how you think. And, you know, when you start getting up and up or down and down, then all of a sudden you end up like this all the time. And the approach is, how do I be successful in life? And a lot of that is done through our mental conditioning that we do year round that I think is starting to show, you know, some fruits of its labor.
D. Hart was Mountain West player, offensive player of the week. Could you talk, especially after seeing the film again and reflecting on it for a couple of days?
Well, I think you'll be the first to tell you, you know, our team offensive players of the week was our offensive line. He was the recipient of some great work up front. As you guys knew, you know, we lost some really good running backs from a year ago. And I thought both he and Treyas and you know, stepped up and played how we expected them to play. I think that's, I mean, that's a great honor, and believe me, I'm happy as heck for D and really that offensive line, because they're the guys who kind of take pride in them, you know, in an award like that. And I guess it must have been a lean week for the Mountain West. I don't know.
Now that it's fallen this way, do you have any thought of moving Jason Oden back to defense?
No, and guys, he played a lot of plays on all our special teams when you look at rep counts, and he's a guy that you know, it will still, you know, as you guys know, I like to be able to have 3 or 4, and you know, Deron Thompson will start to figure in too as we kind of move forward, because this is a long season, and you're going to need all hands on deck.
How impressed were you with D, considering the fact he hadn't really played a lot of running back? He was mostly playing special teams at Alabama.
Yeah, but he took a lot of reps there. I mean, even the years I was there, you know, the way we practice, and the way we practice here and the way we practice there, you got 2 fields going all the time. It isn't like one guy going and 3 guys watching. Right. You know, they're playing the game, right. And I think that probably helped his rusty, you know, not being rusty or whatever. You know, there were still some things when you watch that he's going to really need to improve on. And you could tell at times he didn't have a spring ball, a great summer conditioning. You know what I'm getting at? And yet, you know, that's kind of what I expected when he chose to come here.
But there are a difference between practice reps and game action, the emotions of it.
Sure.
It seemed like he handled that very well, like it was very natural.
I think his energy was a little contagious. I think when you watch both he and Treyas as they ran the ball, You know, I think, you know, I'd say this, the game wasn't too big for the guy, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? And
He's playing bigger, yeah.
yeah, so, and yet it was very important to him, and you could tell the joy that he had with his teammates and now new family in that locker room. I mean, that's kind of cool to see.
Did you talk to him about that afterwards? You know, just the difference between being in Alabama and now being here and, you know, having a big game like that in Mountain West?
No, I didn't. You know, he was, I think, one of the first guys to give me a hug. And his words to me were, you know, thank you for giving me an opportunity. And, you know, that kind of means a lot. So.
How do you feel your team has handled in the days since?
Well, I haven't seen him
well,
because Saturday was a day off for the first week and Sunday was a day off for this week. And so this morning was really the first time we'd been together and we did it offense and defense and position group to put this game to bed. So really, you know, this afternoon or tonight will be the first opportunity that I'll kind of see them as a whole. You know, guys have been wandering around the office and that kind of stuff, which is normal. But as far as the group itself, you know, I haven't really. And you know, I kind of just gathered the way guys were. Okay, what's next? You know, they were ready to kind of say, hey, Coach, give me. I said I can't because it's your day off. We'll do that on Monday. Let's get ourselves
Right,
better
'cause
and
the
go.
truth of the matter is this was a big win, obviously, for you last week with the in-state part of it. But technically, on paper, you're going into a game, a true road game, against a team that should be better than the one you just faced.
You know,
One that's very important in your conference.
Yeah, and as we talked going into the season, obviously the front half of this schedule, you know, looked, you know, to be something that we need to be prepared for. And, you know, don't let the score of the Ole Miss game not say that, you know, in the fourth quarter it was 7-6. And the big play that started it was jump off sides, and they threw the ball up, and a great player caught it and got the ball down at the 10-yard line, you know, and then they throw a slant to a guy that's a real fire breather and glass eater that ran very fast for a long ways, you know. I know the kind of players Ole Miss has too well. And to see how Boise was playing against those guys, you know, they hung in there.
How do you balance kind of, this is where it gets really critical, probably to balance that fine line between wanting your team to have some confidence but not being overconfident?
Oh,
'Cause obviously
yeah.
they gained some confidence.
I guarantee they won't be overconfident. The tail kicking that they put on us the last couple outings, I don't think that there'll be any of that.
I guess
as-
I mean,
as
not
I
being
said it-
fearful, though, too, not being.
Oh, they won't be
Because
fearful.
of those tail kickings in the past.
They'll be prepared. You know, we'll see how practice goes today. We'll see how it goes on Tuesday. We'll get the plan in. You know, we'll practice on Wednesday and get third downs and a little bit of red area in, and then we'll have a perfect Thursday. And then we'll have a walkthrough on Friday, and we'll get on a plane and go get ready for an 8:15 tip-off. And that's got to be the approach. Now, they definitely understand the challenge. And guys, it's just simply another step in the climb as we move forward.
Well, on two levels then, just how significant a test on every level is this game for you guys?
Yeah.
A litmus test, and also, you were the only team in your league being an FBS team this year. Does that show there's opportunity here?
I do. I definitely think so. And it should be something our guys should be proud of. You know, their last two outings, somebody pointed out, I guess we've beaten 2 Pac-12 teams, right? I mean, that's significant, I think. You know, I guess I expected to win, but, you know, I mean, I guess if you look at it from that standpoint, and now we get an opportunity to play the king of the Mountain West Conference, even though they didn't win it last year. I mean, you know, when you look at it, no one's ever historically, you know, they've kind of run the table. So it'll be interesting, and obviously that's a great place to play. I mean, it's fun because the crowd and the, you know, all that stuff. I mean, their fans in that city really get it, and it's a true home field advantage.
Did you hear from anybody from Alabama, whether Nick or anybody else, about the way Dee played, and are they kind of rooting for him there?
No, there's no doubt about it. The response. It's one thing about the University of Alabama that really kind of makes it a special place is once you're one of them, you're one of them forever. And the people that follow you, I just can't tell you how kind of surreal that is. And more so because, you know, you're one of theirs, and that's the way they look at it. And that's no different, you know, for Dee. And, you know, he did a lot of really good things for them when he was there, you know, and on special teams. And they'll be the first ones to tell you. And they're really proud of him. And they all watched the game, you know, because that was their Friday night in the hotel. And it was great to see. And, you know, the enthusiasm at which he played for and a lot of our guys played with is something I kind of liked, you know.
Did you hear from anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Who did you hear from?
Lots of them.
I think the old adage is you make your biggest improvements from week 1 to week 2. What are the areas when you went back and looked at film you might need to target on more this week?
Well, I think the fast start part, number one. And, you know, I think we might have learned something about our team that way as far as probably letting our guys play a little faster, you know, I mean, as far as what we were doing. That number one. You know, we never could get out of a hole. They won the field, you know, flipping the field. And we didn't help. I think we had like 2 yards or something in the first quarter, so that doesn't help. But you know, I think we never really flipped the field on them, and they took advantage of that. And which, you know, I mean, give them credit. That was good, you know, on their part. We've got to learn how to. You know, I was disappointed in our first 8. We'd normally been pretty good, you know, at least getting a couple first downs and being able to change field position, and we obviously didn't do that. But I think that's one, obviously, you know, attention to detail at the receiver spot. I'll be straight up, I was disappointed with their play. They know it. We're better throwing the football than we showed. You know, naturally everyone says it's Garrett, but, you know, it wasn't, you know. And so we need to get that righted this week for us to be successful, because we're going to have to be balanced against these guys. We can't, you know, we're just not going to be able to line up and knock them off the ball. We got to be balanced.
You said it's not Garrett. Garrett said after the game he felt like, at least in the first half, he was just a little off target.
He was. He didn't reset his feet when he needed to. I thought he rushed some things. But he recognized it. That what, you know, what was good. And then, you know, there were a couple, I think, huge plays in that game. You know, Xavier Williams' third down catch there, D. Hart's angle catch. I think the out route to Vaden when we needed to kind of eat some clock there at the end was big on a third down. So, you know, those were all, you know, good plays by him.
I was gonna say, it seems like in the clutch throws down the stretch, he couldn't have been any better.
No, I thought
Third down, third and longs,
Yeah.
it was
No.
right on target. He looked confident and
Yeah, he
very efficient.
didn't blink, you know,
Yeah.
kind of stood in there and threw it where it was supposed to go. But, you know, that's what he should do. So.
Your defense was very resilient in this game. When you look back, were you happy with the pressure they put on Cepho, or is that something that still needs to improve?
You know, I think there were times that we, you know, maybe, you know, forced him just simply to reset his feet. Not that we got there. You know what I'm getting at? And I really thought there at the end, I thought Brian O'Heaney had a couple back-to-back, big-time rushes that forced him, to not be on rhythm. I mean, the key is to get the quarterback off rhythm. And so I thought that was good. He's a good player. They got themselves one there, and he's going to win a lot of games for them in the future.
Jay, the running back from
Yeah,
NC State,
yeah.
he caught a ton of passes. He's obviously a very good runner.
Yeah.
What difficulties does he bring to your defense?
Well, his combination of speed and physical play, the catching part kind of now makes it a three-headed monster, But he's obviously a guy on their offensive call sheet that says get it to, because a guy can make a difference in a game. And he'll get his touches naturally, running it. But now, the times that he's going to get it out of the backfield in this offense and that kind of stuff. They've got, we're going to have to tackle this guy. And I thought our tackling for a first game was pretty darn good in that game. I really do. That's one of the things when you really haven't done it at that full of a pace, no matter how you try to simulate it in practice. Game tempo is a lot more than scrimmages. It's more than, and haven't tackled anybody since the bowl game. So I felt that was really something pretty good. Guy we haven't been able to stop against these guys is kid out of Helena, Montana, Miller. And that guy is a really fine football player, not just because he's from Montana, but that helps.
Yeah.
And but he's the real deal. And again, playing against that Ole Miss team and knowing the kind of players they have, I would not read into what their quarterback did on interceptions. Okay, it's hard to read into that based on the team that you played.
I was going to say, you have your team watch more film of Hedrick than what he did to you last year, as opposed to what Ole Miss.
This is a strange game, okay, because we've broken down, obviously, the Ole Miss game, the 13 game that we played. We've broken down 4 games from 12 and then 4 games from 11 that their D coordinator was there as a DB coach to try to see what defense is this, okay? Offensively, you got Arkansas State. You've got their head coach, who obviously was a longtime Boise guy, and now their coordinator, who is Stanford, okay? So it's and yet you only get one game to kind of figure it out, from this year. So the identity is something that we need to do both offensively and defensively, that our rules must apply, because we got to look into it, but our offense will never be spoken in the same breath as to what Ole Miss does offensively. Okay, that's not who we are. So that's what's really hard going into it. And by pulling everything as we've done, now pulling the similarities from some of the things they did against Ole Miss and say, okay, this is, you see what I'm getting at? So I don't see the Texas A&M where the guy defensively came from. I don't see that as much as maybe some of his Boise influence. You know what I mean? And then offensively, I'm not sure they have all the parts they need to go to what they wanted to from a Stanford standpoint. I think there's more from when Hars was at Boise and Texas and Arkansas State.
I'm going to take one more swing at what Mike was asking about. Was there ever any time that that the light went on when you said, yeah, D can do it? Whether in practice
I'll tell you where it was. I think it was about his third touch when he didn't deviate and took the run to the defender. It was somewhere in there, I don't know, his third, fourth touch where he stuck his foot in the ground and said, "I'm here to stay." And I think for him it was a defining moment too, where, yeah, they tackled him, but they tackled him going the other way. You know what I'm getting at? The old momentum thing? I can't think of the physics problem right now, whether I'm going inertia or, I don't know what I'm doing here. But there was a moment where you could see him, and then when he jumped up in excitement, it was kind of excitement like, God, I'm ready. You know what I mean? And I would say defining moment, that's when I saw D, you know, was getting back to himself.
Can he be a class eater and fire breather for you? Because you need a couple of those guys yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, he's a guy that's gonna help us win football games, and that's what he came here for. And yet he'll be the first one to tell you it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with the culture that he has come into and how these guys in this room have welcomed him, you know, as part of this family.
Did you like the way that he and Treyas complimented each other?
And Jason Oden, guys. I mean, every time on the sideline. I mean, it was not you know, the selfishness, and that's something we've tried to kind of accomplish here. Is I don't know what the role's going to be each game, right? But we're in it together, and here's an amazing thing. So the first year we played these guys, went into the locker room, and there were guys with their heads down because guess what? I didn't play, or I only got 2 snaps, which really gave me an insight as to how these guys think. So it helps you know what you have to tackle. We walk into the locker room after this game, and there were guys that only played 1 play. There were guys that maybe didn't play. And they were all as excited as the guys who played. So to me, that tells me that we have started to get it in what it is to be a true family and be happy for each other and give of ourselves to others so that they have an opportunity to be successful. That part was really cool, you know, and I mean, you want to know the exciting part for me was to see that. That's what warmed my heart about the victory.
Did Treyas show you what you thought? I think on his touchdown run, because a defender broke in, he had that nice spin move to avoid contact and get out and get to the end zone. That's the type of back you think he's going to be. He's different in that way than D might have.
I felt that he actually ran behind his pads. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I mean, they finished going forward, if that makes sense. And, you know, that's good to see because, you know, I thought that was good.
Was that maybe your biggest surprise, though? You go in, you had 31 career starts on your offensive line, and they left halfway through the first quarter.
That's right.
You have some new running backs, and you have 2 guys go for 100 yards. Your offensive line really proved itself.
You know, I think that's a credit to our offensive staff as well. I mean, give those guys their due. Those guys can coach. So, and it goes back. It's the system, and then you've got to trust in your recruiting, and you got to do what they can do best. And I think that our guys adapted as the game plan as the game went on as to maybe what was best for our football team.
Jim, I know last week's game was on Fox Sports and all, but you're on ESPN too. A whole lot of people watch that late night game around the country on ESPN too.
I remember living on the East Coast, and I'd make it to about the first game. Remember, you'd make it through the first quarter, and then you'd wake up and there'd be ant fights on the TV. You know, you're wondering, I wonder what happened. I remember that trying to watch hoop games when I was at Louisville, and I'd stay up to watch my buddies that were at Gonzaga, and they had the 9 o'clock West Coast game. I mean, I barely made it through warm-ups.
Well, I'm just wondering from a standpoint, though, of exposure and recognition, this is a game that's going to put you probably even more in the spotlight than almost any other you'll play this season in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think, I go back. I mean, the fact that they moved this game from whatever it was supposed to be, that a major network deemed us relevant, as in Colorado State, to have this type of game. I think that speaks volumes for what people around the country think is happening in Fort Collins at Colorado State University. And guys, the amount of response that we get here nationally is amazing in comparison to what it has been. So, I mean, that's a credit to the people in the organization.
Because obviously you go back to when Sonny was really able to build this program, and that Thursday night ESPN exposure did wonders for him.
Yeah, and I really, our league, I don't know exactly what happened. I don't quite know how that works, but.
They got asked to move it to Tuesday and Wednesday nights and said no.
Yeah.
Because the Big 12 and other people wanted to play the Thursdays now.
That'd be awesome to me. So,
But that's
that one year at Louisville, we played every single day of the week. We opened up on what would be a Monday,
That's
which
Conference
was,
USA took what the Mountain
that's
West
right.
wouldn't.
We played Kentucky on that day. We finished the season on a Sunday against New Year's Day against like BYU or whoever we played. And we played every single day of the year in between. That was fascinating. That probably stems back to when I confuse you about what kind of practice today is. I don't know what the day is. Today is a preparation Monday. Okay, whether it's on a Tuesday, a Thursday, or a Saturday, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So you kind of get in that mindset.
You have to be your own creature of habit.
That's right.
How do you sense, you've talked a lot in the off-season about you probably have to be a little bit more pass-oriented this season because of what you had. Does this first game change that view a little bit?
No. I expect us to throw the ball better. We threw it horribly. Okay, so let's not make any qualms about it. And it had nothing to do with what they did. It's what we did or didn't do. Okay, we've got to be better throwing the football with the weapons that we have on the outside. And I'm going to just say it again. I was very disappointed in the play of the wide receivers. Okay, I called them out. So am I going to get a call from their parents now? Because is that going to ruin the participation ribbon thing? But that's the bottom line. Okay, we got to get better at that position. I thought their effort was good. They blocked well. Okay, it wasn't for that. But the lack of detail that it takes to be effective at your job, they did not do.
Such as not running the routes right or timing off.
Look, and knowing exactly where to be and how to be there. Look, I was disappointed. Okay, so
Was it across the board, even your older guys were doing it?
I was very disappointed in that group. Okay, so they're going to come and now you guys are going to print it and now they're going to cry. Okay, all right.
Do you expect?
And I'll get phone calls from mothers now because I'm too hard on our guys. How's that?
You think Kevon's gonna be?
He's getting, I was happy with the reps that he was able to take. And according to Terry, or our training staff, his soreness was not elevated because of the plays he took. So obviously we hope to be able to increase his play as that, that foot goes forward.
Does that seem who burned Boise the most? I don't know if the guy was wide receiver, tight end. I'm sorry, but he looked like a big dude, and Kevon's got some size.
Yeah, he's obviously a big part of what we need to do in the passing game. But as far as that moving forward, we got some other big guys now that they need to step their game up. So
How good were Peralta,
Oh, man, and Stephen
Yeah,
Walker
Stephen Walker.
really didn't I thought, there were a couple again, where maybe we should have outblocked, based on a look or something like that. But for their first go, I thought they handled it very well. And as the game wore on, they won the one-on-one battles.
I thought you were the Mountain West Player of the Week
Kicker was?
Aaron Roberts.
It's a slow week in the Mountain West Conference, wasn't it?
Okay, maybe you can talk about Greg Gibbs and Shaq Barrett.
Oh, man, and I'm glad you brought that up. That makes me, I just can't tell you how happy all of us are, for them to get an opportunity, to be on an NFL club. And you can say what you want about practice squad. Well, guys, there's a whole bunch of football players that aren't playing right now. And they're included into a club now that just makes us proud. And now having, obviously Weston and Crockett and then Shaq and Capri, you know what, that's really exciting for all of us and well-deserved. I just think those guys, have earned it. And that's being undrafted and going in and really having to earn that spot, I think speaks volumes for their preparation and what they did in camp.
How nice was it to see Weston and Shaq and Capri on the sidelines, still involved in what you're trying to get done, have them come into the locker room and be part of it?
That means, I just used to love at Alabama when those guys would come back. And I think for these guys realizing that they have a home and a family, even though they're not here on a daily basis. But now to be there and be with their, with their guys, I just, there again, it just really puts a smile on my face that says, you know what, we're doing it right. And those guys feel connected, to come back and be part of it. Not to say I wouldn't have liked to suit them up. All right. Anything else? Good. You bet.
That we can overcome adversity. That was the biggest thing. I think, after watching the film this morning, we kind of, looking back, we realized we didn't play good at all in that first half. And me, I didn't play well at all. But as a team, we didn't, we were making bonehead mistakes that, we weren't doing all fall camp, all spring ball. And so to go in there and make the adjustments at halftime and come out the way we did that second half and run the ball like we did, I mean, it just shows, that nothing really gets to us. We're just, each half has its own life and each quarter has its own life. And we came out ready to go that second half and win a football game. So.
Do you get the sense you put all those things behind you now for the year, or are these things you're going to have to fight through?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something, it's going to happen with every, any first game like that. You always got, things you got to work out, little kinks here and there. You got jitters. Everybody's, got their nerves, the different ways of dealing with them. So you're going to have, mistakes like that in the first game. And then you throw in 65,000 people, in the atmosphere like that. So it gets to you a little bit, and I think it took us a while to calm down, but I think everybody saw what we can do once we do calm down and start playing our game. So.
How important is it to have that in your back pocket going into your first true road game against the team that I think on paper everybody would agree is better than the team you just faced?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for us. Obviously, we know Boise's probably going to be one of the best teams that we'll play all year. So to get them now, we're coming off a high note, so we want to make sure that kind of stays in it this week, keeps us focused and keeps us going in the right direction. We want to learn from this film, what we did in that first half. But, like I said, we're coming off a high note. Everybody's feeling good, and we want to make sure that kind of stays with us this week and keeps us focused because, like I said, this is probably one of our best opponents that we'll play all year. And we know if we want to win a Mountain West Championship, we have to go through them. And so that's kind of, that's our goal. And we know it starts right this weekend. So.
In all reality, this week's game is more important than even last week's, isn't it?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we want to beat every rival that we ever play, everything like that. It's always a big game for us playing rivals. It's big for the people of Colorado, but at the end of the day, we want to win the Mountain West. So we know it starts with Boise, and so we got to make sure we're focused this week and ready to go.
Was there a sense of the big questions about this team? Some of the biggest questions going in were that offensive line, the running backs.
Yep.
Is there a real validation that you guys are doing the right things, that you can come in with running backs that people didn't really know run the way you did? An offensive line that lost the only
I think that goes back to what Coach Mack is doing here. Everything is about the details. It doesn't, we don't have to have these big name guys out there. Even though we've got D Hart from Alabama, he's a big name guy, and Sosa. Everybody, they're coming together and they're working on the details, and that's what Coach Mack has preached since he's been here. And I've been saying all fall camp, I'm not worried about our O-line or our running backs at all, and I've been talking those guys up as much as I can. And I think whatever hype that I gave them, I guess, I think they lived up to it and kind of showed everybody that we're not going to, miss a beat from what we did last year. So
You were talking it, but did you have to see it yourself in a game to truly believe it?
I think it obviously, will help anything when you kind of see it out there. It's going to make you obviously realize that what you were saying is 100% true. But like I said, what I was seeing this summer with the workouts that we were doing and in fall camp, what they were doing, I was, there was in the back of my mind, well, we could be just as good, if not better, than we were last year. So I was talking those guys up as much as I could, and like I said, I think they lived up to it, and hopefully we can keep it going through the rest of the year.
Was there any doubt going in? You've gone through practice with him, you've
Mhm.
been with him. Was there any doubt in your mind that D Hart could be the guy here?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, I saw him all fall what he was doing, the cuts that he was making. There was a couple times he put some spin moves on people in practice, and it's just things like that. That's not something you see every day. And so when I was starting to see that stuff, that's when I started kind of talking those guys up because, I could see it firsthand what they were doing, and so I knew what they were bringing to us. So.
Garrett, as difficult a first half as I know you've
Mhm.
had with the passing game.
Yep.
The second half, third down plays in particular, you guys just really buckled down and everything looked confident, efficient. Third and 10, you hit the 11-yard pass, things like that. How were you feeling, and what changed for you during the course of the game that you became the quarterback that could hit every one of those passes after being a little bit off guard in the first half?
That was something that I learned this summer down at the Manning camp. Peyton actually said, if you want to be successful in the game of football, be a successful quarterback, each quarter, each half has a life of its own. You need to go in at halftime, make the proper adjustments. And whether you've had a good half or a bad half, each half has life of its own, like I said, and you need to just forget it, move on, go out and because, in order to win football games, you need to, and like the third down, like you mentioned, you need to be able to make those plays for your football team. And so I was very happy that I could do that, make those plays for those guys, keep our defense off the field because they were playing a heck of a game. But obviously, if we can keep them off the field, keep them rested, that's what we want to do. And so I was very happy that I could make those plays, and it kind of showed a lot for myself, I guess, as I think, if it was last year, I think with that first half that I had, I don't think I would have come out this second half like I did. And so I think it showed a lot myself that I can come out and forget what I did in that first half and play a better football game. So.
Where's
What
McElwain?
is that to make halftime adjustments in such a short amount of time?
It's really not too difficult. They've got certain things that we'll key on that first half and we'll learn from. They were running a lot more man coverage than we were anticipating. We had heard that they were, trying to do that, work on that in spring ball in the summer and fall camp. And so we knew it was going to be coming, but we didn't anticipate it to be that much man coverage. And so that was a big reason, I think, why we ran the ball so well. If they're going to play that much man, their DBs and everybody are going to have their back turned to our running back. So it's going to open up huge holes. And, so we went into halftime and made sure we talked about some certain plays that are for man coverage and went out the second half, like I said, and executed them and stayed on the field and kind of, put up some big points for us. So.
You talked about what you learned about yourselves last Friday.
Mhm.
My days mixed up.
Yeah.
Last Friday, what can you learn about this team? How big a test is this week?
No, it's a huge test. It's obviously the biggest test so far, and probably going to be one of the biggest tests all season. We haven't had very much success against Boise since I've been here. Boise's always been kind of the top dog, the team that everybody wants to be in the Mountain West, and that's our goal. And we're hoping that we can kind of take them off that the top notch, and we want to be the team that everybody's trying to be. And so that's a goal of ours, and that's something Coach Mack has been trying to instill in everybody since he's been here. And I think everybody's starting to buy into it, and we're ready for the challenge. So.
Your conference got beat up pretty good by
Mhm.
FBS teams. Does that point toward an opportunity this year?
Yeah. I think we obviously played some tough teams in week one or across the board in our conference, but it gives us an opportunity to showcase what we can do, and I think everybody, like I said, everybody's wanting to win that Mountain West Championship. That's been our goal since the end of last season. And so I think everybody's ready to step up to the plate and, do what we got to do to win.
Your coach just came in and penned not the entire first half, your inaccuracy on
Mhm.
just you, but your receivers. What are you guys needing to work on this week to make them more effective, to make sure they're more precise, your timing is better?
I mean, I'll take all the blame for all that. There was a bunch of throws that I missed that I was behind them and I was in front of them. I mean, the very first pass that I threw was in Joe Hansley, and it was 2 yards in front of him. So it's things like that I can't do. And, I don't necessarily know why. First game jitters, whatever it was. Like I said, after the game, I was making the right reads. I was just kind of off with my throws and came out the second half and, had a better half, obviously. But it's just, being more consistent, trying, because the first game, like I said, there's only so much you can do in practice to try and simulate game speed. There's really nothing you can do to simulate just how fast a game is, and so it takes you a while to adjust to it. And I think, like I said, we calmed down and came out that second half ready to roll. And just hope we can come in this week, keep focused, and practice hard like Coach Mack always wants to do. So.
Did you watch the Boise State game against Ole Miss?
I did. I didn't obviously get to watch too much because we were in meetings towards the end of the game, but I got to watch a little bit of it. So it was.
Your impressions of what you saw there and what you remember from last year?
They're a new team, I guess, new staff. So I guess they're kind of where we were 2 years ago. We were trying to learn everything that the coaches were trying to teach us, and it's a lot to learn, but they're still a heck of a football team. Boise State's always going to be, Boise State. They're always going to be that top dog, and like I said, so they're a well-coached football team. I know their coach. He recruited me, so I know he's a really good coach. I've had communication with him these last 4 years, so I've talked to him a couple times, and I know what he brings to the table, and I know they'll be very well coached for this weekend. We got to be prepared and ready to go.
That's another team that likes to play a lot of man too.
Mm-hmm.
You had success with it last year. Is it something you think you'd be better prepared for this week as opposed to maybe getting surprised by so much man from CU?
Yeah, I think we'll be, obviously, like I've said with the first game, there's a lot of stuff that you don't know what you're going to see. And so now that we have a game from, Ole Miss, we'll be able to watch that game and kind of get the feel of what they want to do. That's something I like to do, is just sit down and watch an entire football game and just see, what coverages they're doing on certain downs and just get a feel for what coverages they do in certain situations, things like that. And so I think it'll be fun to kind of watch. And, I'll text Bo Wallace, actually. I'll probably call him and ask him, get some input on what they were doing. So that's something he texts me after the game and wish me good luck, everything like that. So I will, I'll call him and see whatever info I can get for him. So.
Will you have, will there be a larger Garrett Grayson cheering section at this game than most, as close to home as you'll ever play?
Yeah, I need 35 tickets, so this will be the most family has ever been at any game. So, and that's obviously the reason why, because it's the closest game that we have to home. So, I've been asking everybody on the team if they're using their tickets, and so far I think I have about 25. So I'm sitting okay, but I need a few more. So.
Why did you make that choice against CSU over Boise?
Well, the quarterback that they have now, he was already committed there, and they had obviously offered him first. So I figured he was kind of their quarterback that they wanted out of that class, and so I figured it was best for me. Once Pete said he was going to graduate early and I decided to do the gray shirt thing, I figured it was just best for me to come here. Obviously, Boise was a great program. They still are, but I kind of wanted to run into that kind of pro-style offense. They were a little bit more spread back then, and I figured, my dream's always been to play in the NFL, and I figured pro-style gives me the best chance to be successful at that level and to get there. So there was a lot of things that went into it, but I'm very happy with where I'm at. So.
I got to think you kind of want this game a little bit more.
Yeah, I do. There's certain things. I mean, even I could go back to last year at the bowl game, Washington State. They wanted me as a safety, not as a quarterback. So anytime you played teams that didn't necessarily want you as a quarterback or you weren't their number one recruit, I get asked that at that position. It kind of leaves a chip on your shoulder, and you kind of want the game a little bit more. Just kind of just show them, hey, So it's fun. So.
Mixed feelings about last year's game with Boise State because it was a game that you broke the total offense record for the school, but it was in a loss.
Yeah, there's absolutely. I mean, I could take it back to this last weekend and say, I didn't play well, but we won. And I was talking to my head coach after the football game, and he was like, I'd rather look bad in a win than good in a loss, and that's exactly how I feel about it. Going after that Boise game last year, and people tweeting about it and everything, breaking Bradley Van Pelt's record, and obviously I'm very honored and humbled by it, but I would have rather won the game and thrown for 0 yards than whatever I did and lose the game. So.
But this is an offense that does go into this week with some confidence, considering what you guys were able to accomplish last year.
Yeah, there's definitely confidence flying around with us right now. We were all kind of talking in the meeting room this morning that I think we did a little bit more than we were expecting. Obviously, we wanted to go out there and execute like we did that second half and we wanted to execute like that the whole game. But the way we came out that second half and the yards that we put up and the points that we put up, I think everybody kind of opened their eyes that we can be a very explosive offense and start off right where we left off last year. So.
I know you told me your mom felt really good about the fact that Ty was protecting your backside.
Yeah.
How do you and mom feel about Nick and how he played?
No, he played a heck of a game. Obviously, we're going to need him these next couple games, but I was very happy with how he played. He's a monster out there. He's 330 pounds, so there's not going to be many people that are going to be able to push him around. And so, but like I said, the way he played, because you could tell that first snap he was kind of wide-eyed, like holy cow, this is for real. And that's going to be anybody how they feel, when they're getting their first snap in college football. I can't even tell you how I felt. So, but he calmed down quick, and like I said, he played a heck of a game. And I think it's pretty evident with the yards that we put up rushing. And I had all day to throw, so I never really felt rushed. And they gave me all the time in the world.
Did you get any feel from Boise that you were the next guy in line if their offer hadn't been accepted right away from other guys?
Yeah, I went to a camp there, and that's when they offered the kid that they have now, Grant. And they told me if we kept with communication, everything like that, they would like to offer me. And it was kind of on my end, I guess, at that point, because I think I got a little upset that I wasn't offered, and so I kind of blew it off. And so at the end of the day, it's kind of my fault, I guess, when I look back at it. But like I said, I'm very happy with where I'm at. There's no place I'd rather be. So.
Coach talked about, he said 2 years ago when you guys beat CU in the opener, he could walk in the locker room and see a lot of the guys that hadn't played, that
Mhm.
maybe only played a game or two, hanging their heads. They were kind of pissed that they hadn't played more. Said this year walks in and even guys that didn't play were just as happy as the guys who played every down. Did you see that dynamic? Have you seen that dynamic develop over the last couple seasons?
Yeah, I think in the last half of last season is when I kind of really started to see that, especially with all the praise that Capri was getting, with the rest of the running backs, Donnell and Woke. Those guys specifically come to mind. They were just happy for Capri and happy for the success that he was having and that he was bringing to us as a team. And I think that's something that Coach Mack has brought here, that we want to win at any cost. Obviously, we don't want to do anything that's going to hurt other teams or whatever it is, but I think people are just so happy to be winning again in this program and for the town and for the people of Fort Collins. I think everybody's just, like I said, beyond happy to win football games. And so if they're only getting 2 snaps a game, but those 2 snaps, that's something Coach Mack has said, those 2 snaps could be the biggest 2 snaps of the game. So like I said, I think everybody's just happy to be winning, and they're happy to be a part of this team. So.
Anything else for Garrett?
Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett.